This is the Louie T Network.
You know what time it is. Don't watch me. Watch TV. But I'm on TV. So watch me. That's right. I'm your host, Louie T, here on Pro Football Central Weekly. And we've gotten through the first week of the NFL regular season. And I must say, very enjoyable football over the weekend. And there's a lot to discuss. The Eagles electrified us on Monday Night Football. Chip Kelly and that Eagles offense, he finally unveiled that express offense that he had at Oregon. He brought it to the National Football League, and what a debut it had as they had the Redskins off balance all night long. LaShawn Shady McCoy looked like one of the best backs in the league. Michael Vick was steady in this offense, didn't make any mistakes in this football game. Deshaun Jackson, electrifying. Everything that you expected and then some you got out of this Eagles offense. And I want to talk about them a little bit later on in the program, but that was one of the big takeaways from week one. You look at the Giants and their situation at the running back position with David Wilson and him fumbling, and the Giants actually went out and signed a running back. They brought back good old Brandon Jacobs from the Super Bowl seasons, and he'll be back there, and they're thinking about using him around the goal line. And so David Wilson has to get his act together or he will not be on the field. And you can't alienate the fans. He's already come out on Twitter and said, hey, I don't care about the fans. You guys are irrelevant to me, at least all of the naysayers and doubters and the ones that are being negative. And you don't want to do that. You don't want to start a war with the fans because that's a war that you will not win in the end. And so he needs to focus in on securing the football. Stop worrying about all of the outside distractions and worry about doing your job better. And all of those things will take care of itself off the football field. But what I really want to get to, the meat and potatoes of what I want to talk about today, is the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I was on a program here on Pro Football Central, and it was a debate podcast. And we talked about the Pittsburgh Steelers. That was one of the topics that we debated about. And I asked the host of that show, what did you think about the Steelers going into this season? And did you think the Steelers were in some trouble? They did not look good in the preseason, and I had my doubts. And I must say, after week one, they did nothing to dispel the notion that this could be another bumpy season for the Pittsburgh Steelers. A lot of people like the Cincinnati Bengals in that division. Don't forget the Super Bowl champions reside in that division. The Cleveland Browns are getting better in that division. And so no one's really talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers. And right now it seems like for good reason. And you look at this roster as it's put together right now, and this offensive line is very young, very youthful offensive line. I thought they did not play bad in this opening game, and we'll get to that game against the Tennessee Titans here in a second. Right now, I'm on a big picture type of focus, and we'll narrow the focus down here in a second and talk about the game itself and what I saw and the takeaways from the game and why they weren't able to get the victory versus the Tennessee Titans. But right now, I want to know, are the Steelers in trouble? Is this a team that will not be able to make noise in the AFC North? Is this a team that won't compete for a divisional crown? Is this a team that will miss the postseason for the second consecutive season? It's hard for me to buy into the notion that the Steelers won't be around come playoff time. It's hard for me to fathom that, especially being that they did not make the postseason last year. And so it's hard for me to stomach the Pittsburgh Steelers not being in contention for a playoff berth come January. But right now, the way it looks, and again, it's only week 1. You do not want to overreact. You do not want to hit the panic button. But the preseason, lackluster. Week 1, lackluster. You lose guys in this football game. Let's talk about this game against the Tennessee Titans, and then we'll go back big picture once again once I'm done. But let's talk about this game versus the Tennessee Titans. Steelers get a safety, very first play of the game. The kickoff, mind you. Darius Raynard, returner for the Tennessee Titans, steps out of the end zone to retrieve the football, which he did not let travel over the goal line. So it was a safety as he took a knee in the end zone. Steelers get a freebie, get free points. So they're up 2-0. They get the free kick. They go down the field. And to me, this game was about missed opportunities for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And a lot of teams can say that in week 1. A lot of teams missed opportunities to take advantage of mistakes that the other team may have made, maybe a gamble or two that the other team may have made. And the Steelers did not take advantage of opportunities in this football game, this being one of them. They get the football after the free kick, after the safety. They go down the field. They get inside the 10-yard line, and on 3rd and inches, and I hate fullback handoffs, and this is why. There's not enough space between the fullback and the quarterback, and if anything goes wrong, the quarterback or the fullback takes one false step, if the handoff is mishandled, if the snap is mishandled, and that running back, that fullback gets on the quarterback too quickly, there's going to be problems. And on this particular play, looks like Roethlisberger and Redmond, the footwork somewhere got crossed up, and Roethlisberger goes to hand the football off to Redmond, and Redmond is too close. It's a fumble. The ball gets kicked into the end zone. Titans recover, and all of a sudden, a promising drive that looked like it was going to result in a touchdown. At worst, at minimum, they were going to get a field goal. That all of a sudden turns into a turnover, and it seemed like the Steelers never recovered from that turnover in this game. You look at the rest of this football game, and let's give the Tennessee Titans some credit, okay? They forced the issue in this football game. The Steelers weren't successful running the football, and that's another thing that I'll touch on here in a second is the lack of the running game. But the Titans, let's not take away from what the Titans were able to do in this football game. The Tennessee Titans were able to come out and play some really good defense, especially this secondary. I was very, very impressed with Alteron Werner, very impressed with McCourty. These guys were up in the face of these Steelers receivers, and nothing down the field was completed by Ben Roethlisberger because these corners were all over the football. Werner had an interception in this game as well. And so McCourty, Werner, and the rest of that Tennessee Titans defense played really well. Zach Brown getting in the backfield. They blitzed Roethlisberger. They got him down. Jarrell Casey was an absolute animal in this game. He had a couple of sacks, and they could not block him in this football game. And so you look at the Steelers in this football game, and everything was short. The short passing game is something that they've put extra emphasis on since Todd Haley has come on as offensive coordinator. And to a certain degree, I understand the principle behind it. I know why they're doing it. They want Ben to get the football out of his hand, to protect him, to have him have some longevity throughout the course of the season and prolong his career. Also, they want to protect this offensive line, but at the same time, you got to be able to take shots down the field. And the Steelers did take their fair share of shots down the field, but they did not complete them. You can take all the shots you want, but you got to be able to hit some of them. They didn't hit any. And 21 of 33 for 191 yards isn't going to get it done in this league. Those are very pedestrian numbers. Ben Roethlisberger is a guy that can throw for 250, 270, 300 yards passing. He's done it numerous times in his career. They have to open this thing up, do the Pittsburgh Steelers. They have to be more aggressive offensively. That was part of the problem on Sunday. Not aggressive enough. Everything was 15 yards and in towards the line of scrimmage. in terms of throwing the football. And the Tennessee Titans knew it. They pinched these guys, and they brought people up to the line of scrimmage and forced the issue. And the Steelers weren't able to get any rhythm offensively in this game. Now, defensively, you look at the Steelers, they play well enough to win this football game. You give up 16 points, you're supposed to win in the National Football League. And the defense looked really good. They need to get more pressure on the quarterback. I felt like Lamar Woodley played really well in this game, and he got a sack, and he was getting pressure. But Jarvis Jones has to step up and get pressure. In his defense, he was going up against one of the better left tackles in Michael Rules in the league, and so he was stonewalled in this game. Didn't see him. He flashed on one play in a running play. He got in and destroyed Chris Johnson in the backfield. That was a very impressive play. But I need to see more out of Jarvis Jones, more out of these defensive linemen. Kiesel played well in this game. They got to get more contributions from other guys, linebackers. They got to start getting to the quarterback. I thought Jake Locker wasn't comfortable, but he wasn't under siege in this game. Steelers have to get more pressure. But the running game for the Tennessee Titans wasn't shut down, but it wasn't ultra effective. It was effective enough, though. And this is something that the Steelers aren't accustomed to. This is very, very foreign territory for the Steelers, not being able to just shut down the other team's rushing attack. Now, again, 25 carries for Chris Johnson, 70 yards. That's not a huge day by any standards, by any means in the National Football League. However, what he was able to do was get yards when they needed to be had. When they got near the goal line, he was able to pick up yards. When they got in 3rd and 2, he was able to pick up 4 yards. When they got in situations when the Titans needed yards to be gained, they got them. And when's the last time the Steelers gave up a 12-play, 50-yard drive with 11 of those plays being runs, the last of which results in a touchdown? This is another example of the Steelers not taking advantage of a situation. 4th and 1, Steelers have an opportunity to end a drive for the Tennessee Titans in that particular ball game. And Jackie Battle gets the football. The Steelers get an enormous amount of penetration on this play. They're in the backfield. They've got the perfect opportunity to stop this drive. Mike Munchak wanted to gamble. And the Steelers are in the backfield. There's about at least 2 or 3 defenders with an opportunity to stop this rushing play and turn this ball over on downs. Instead, no one makes the tackle. They allow Jackie Battle to have a 2nd and a 3rd effort, and he picks up the 1st down. And that was the drive that was 12 plays, 11 of them being running plays that resulted in a touchdown. The go-ahead score, Titans had not scored up until that point. They get a touchdown on that possession, and they never look back. And those are the type of plays that the Steelers normally make. They normally get that stop on 4th and 1, turn the football over back to the offense, and the offense makes something happen with that momentum that the defense just gave them. Instead, they give up the 1st down on a 2nd and 3rd effort. They go down, Titans get the touchdown, and it's a different feel in Pittsburgh right now. It's a different aura. It's not the same. And even the mystique of the stadium, even Heinz Field, which used to be hard for opponents to kick field goals in, the Titans were 3 for 3 in this game. Rod Baronis, 3 for 3 in this game at Heinz Field. And so nothing seems to be going the Steelers' way right now in this particular game. And so Steelers tipped a couple of balls in the air, and they weren't able to come up with them. And the Steelers normally make those plays, missed opportunities. And Troy Polamalu is still flying around. He had one of those Troy Polamalu-esque plays where you're just in awe of what he's able to do. He times a blitz perfectly and jumps over the line. I don't know how Jake Locker did not fumble. I think he saw him because he was clutching the football as he got hit. But Troy Polamalu is still running around with reckless abandon. But this defense has to make plays because this offense right now, and much was made of this receiving corps. I think the receivers were fine in this game. Wasn't a lot of separation being created, but when the ball was close enough, they made plays on the football. So I think the Steelers have to be able to run the football better. Let's talk about this running game because they had several injuries in this game. One to maybe their most important offensive lineman, that being Marquise Pouncey. He was gone after the first possession, and we later found out torn MCL, torn ACL, gone for the season. That's a devastating blow to this offensive line, and they simply did not run the football effectively in this game at all. And then, to make matters worse, the guy that they were giving the football to and someone that they were looking to give this offense a shot in the arm with a little bit of speed and elusiveness, and he's also a guy that doubled as their kickoff returner, that being LaRod Stevens-Howling. He goes out of this game late in the third quarter, early in the fourth quarter, with what we found out later to be a torn ACL. He's done for the season. Larry Foote tears his bicep. He's gone for the season. And so this Steelers team is banged up, and they're being decimated by injuries early on. And so there's a lot of questions about this Steelers team. And this was not a good showing by the Steelers in week 1, at home nonetheless, versus the Tennessee Titans. No one feels like the Tennessee Titans are going to be juggernauts this season. And to lose at home in your home opener 16-9 in a game where you barely put forth any offensive production. Your defense did enough to win, but didn't make any plays defensively. You force a fumble on Delanie Walker. That's a play where the Steelers normally get the football. You've got 3 Steeler defenders around the football. They let Delanie Walker out-hustle all of them to the football. He recovers it and then has the presence of mind to get up and get about 3 or 4 more yards after he gets up. And so that's the type of play the Steelers normally make. They normally come up with that football. They forced a fumble. They recovered the fumble. In this particular game, they didn't. And that just goes back to what I spoke about earlier with them not taking advantage of opportunities and it just feeling different in Pittsburgh right now. And so what I want to know is, are the Steelers in serious trouble? They got a big one coming up here on Monday Night Football on the road against the team that everyone seems to think has the inside track to this AFC North division this year. Everyone thinks it's the time for the Cincinnati Bengals to step up and win this division. Everyone's counting the Steelers out. There's some people that still feel like the Baltimore Ravens can win this division, but many people think that the Ravens have really put themselves in a precarious situation with all of the guys that they lost in the offseason and not having Anquan Bolden back. And we saw what he did on Sunday afternoon in San Francisco versus the Green Bay Packers. They're missing Anquan Bolden right now, of the Baltimore Ravens. And so a lot of people think the Cincinnati Bengals are the team in this division. The Steelers can change a lot of people's minds if they can go into the jungle and get one on Monday Night Football from those Cincinnati Bengals. It's going to be a fun matchup to watch, but this is a big game for the Pittsburgh Steelers because if they want to win this division, if they want to be a playoff team, they're going to have to win games like this, tough on the road, especially when you're squandering opportunities to get wins at home versus opponents that you feel like you should be able to handle, like the Tennessee Titans. Another question I have about this Steelers team, and this was talked about a lot in the offseason, and I found this to be almost offensive. However, I guess it's a plausible conversation. It must be if people continue to talk about it, and that's the job security of Mike Tomlin. And I've been a staunch Mike Tomlin defender from day one. I've always been a proponent of Mike Tomlin. I love his coaching style. I love his demeanor. He's won a Super Bowl. A lot of people, and this is the argument that I'm hearing people use for that Super Bowl victory. It wasn't his players. It wasn't his guys. Is this college football? Last time I checked, this was the NFL. Since when do guys have players? Do we have recruiting classes in the NFL? I'm not sure if I missed that or not. Are there recruiting classes in the NFL? Because last time I checked, you get a job, you inherit players, and you get those players, and you try to get the most out of those players. And that's what he did. He took those players, Hines Ward and company, and they got a Super Bowl championship. So miss me with all of those weren't his players talk. Now, have the Steelers done a flawless job since he's taken over in drafting? No, probably not. But that's not indicative of what Mike Tomlin is as a head coach. That's more on the lap of the GM. And so I think Mike Tomlin is a fabulous coach, and I think he's a heck of a motivator. And I feel like that some of the moves that they haven't made in the offseason and some of these injuries, and guys are getting older, yes, that's true. They need to find ways to get younger, and that's why this offensive line is younger this year, because they're moving forward at that position. They need more talented players at the running back position. That's why Le'Veon Bell being injured and not being able to play to start this season is a devastating blow to this Steelers football team, because they need to run the football better to take some pressure off of this passing game, and he's not there. And I feel like they need speed. Speed! They don't have speed in the backfield, and that's why LaRod Stevens howling going down was so devastating to this football team, was a huge blow to this offense and to that special teams unit, because he's a guy that can infuse and inject speed on this Pittsburgh Steelers roster. They do have Felix Jones, and he's a guy that once he gets it going, he can move too. He can pick him up and put him down, but Felix Jones is a guy that is oft injured, and he's questionable as a running back in this league. And so we'll see if he can help the Steelers out at the running back position. But there are a lot of questions to be answered, and one of them is Mike Tomlin safe? I feel like that isn't a question. He is safe, but I'm hearing a lot of chatter about him potentially being fired if the Steelers don't make the postseason this year. And to me, that is asinine. This guy is one of the better head coaches in the league. He is the youngest head coach to ever win a Super Bowl, and I just think that he is a really good football coach, and the Steelers would be making a mistake if they were to fire him because of 2 consecutive seasons missing the postseason. And I'll say this. If Mike Tomlin and this Steelers team aren't able to make the postseason, there's probably going to be some rumblings and some grumblings about Tomlin keeping his job. And I've talked to a lot of Steelers fans, and the first thing out of their mouth every time I speak to them is that the Steelers need to fire Mike Tomlin. And I do not understand. I am lost here. I must have missed the memo that said Mike Tomlin is the reason why the Steelers aren't getting it done. And yeah, you can put some of the blame on the head coach, but a lot of times this Pittsburgh Steelers football team, who I think isn't the most talented to begin with, they're in a position to win each and every single week. Now, do the players always go out and execute? That's debatable. And I could question this offensive coordinator right now, because I don't feel like Todd Haley is maximizing what the Steelers have on offense. And so we'll see. We'll see. But that is a discussion. To me, that is a heated debate right now. And I think that Tomlin should keep his job whether the Steelers make it to the postseason or not. And keep this in mind, the Steelers are an organization that does not fire head coaches quickly. We've seen Chuck Noll stay in control for a very long time. We saw Bill Cowher stay in control for a very long time. This is a franchise that keeps head coaches on board for a very long time. So I'm thinking Mike Tomlin has some leeway here, but you never know in this day and age in the National Football League. Both of those coaches that I spoke about, they coach in a different era. It's a different day and age in the National Football League. And so it's what have you done for me lately? And if Mike Tomlin doesn't take this Steelers team to the playoffs this year, we could be talking about a head coaching change in Pittsburgh. Let's hope that's not the case. And again, it's early. I know it's early, but it just feels awkward right now in the Steel City. So that was one heck of a main course. But you've got a little bit of space left. I know you do. And so we'll take a quick break, and then we'll come back with that mental snack.
This isn't your average tequila. Distilled 5 times, bottled in pure crystal, and wrapped in satin. This is an experience of luxury for people who appreciate the finer things in life. Bonito Tequila is elegant, sophisticated, luxurious, worldly, refined, and beyond perfection. This is the exclusive drink of the modern sophisticated. Try Bonita Tequila, the ultimate tequila experience.
So my mental snack for today is the Philadelphia Eagles, and I talked about them at the top of the show. When I come back to them because what they did on Monday Night Football versus the Washington Redskins was very impressive. Now, granted, the Redskins offense helped this Eagles offense out by not sustaining offense of their own, putting the Redskins defense on the field time and time again, really giving the Eagles the opportunity to run this Redskins defense into the ground. And so from that standpoint, the Eagles really should thank that Redskins offense as well for helping them perpetuate this offensive explosion. However, take nothing away from this Eagles offensive attack. They ran this thing the way it's supposed to be ran, and they made it look easy. And this is the thing I caution Eagles fans with, because while this was a very, very entertaining football game, a very, very fast-paced and aggressive offensive attack that was very explosive and was very efficient, keep this in mind. Michael Vick will not last in this offense if they run it the way they ran it on Monday Night Football. He was already limping as the game came to a conclusion. He was banged up already. LaShawn Shady McCoy cannot have 31 carries. And they shared the carries with Bryce Brown in this game, and that's the thing that's alarming. But keep in mind, again, the Redskins were so bad offensively that the Eagles had an inordinate amount of offensive snaps. But I think a lot of people fail to realize that Chip Kelly runs the football. At Oregon, he ran the football. Running backs are going to get an opportunity to run the football in this offense. That's why there are so many Oregon Duck running backs in the National Football League, because they run the football. LeGarrette Blount, LaMichael James, Kenjon Barner, Jonathan Stewart. The list goes on and on and on because Oregon running backs flourish in that system. And so LaShawn Shady McCoy is going to get his fair share of carries. But 31, like he had on Monday, he can't do that week in and week out. He'll break down at some point in this season. And so while this was very entertaining and it was very, very effective, the Eagles won't last as a football team if they continue to run this system. The reason why this is effective in college is because you get these guys for 2 or 3 seasons, and then they move on to the NFL, and you get a new breed, a new core, a new group of guys in that you can run your system with. You're not running guys into the ground because you're getting more players. You're getting new players. But this is the pros. You don't get a new batch of players next season. You don't get a new batch of players 2 years from now. You don't continue to bring in a new wave of recruits. These same guys that you're running into the ground now are the same guys that will be back on the roster next year and the year after that and the year after that. And so long term, this thing isn't going to work like this. It can't. Short term, this thing is amazing. And if they can get these players to click on all cylinders like they did on Monday night, they're going to be a scary offense. But Vic isn't going to last. That's number one. LaShawn Shady McCoy can't have 30 or 25 plus carries every week, or he won't last either. And this up-tempo style of play, while it worked at times, is going to get Michael Vick injured as well, because there were breakdowns in protection that allowed the Redskins to tee off on him at times too. And so he took some shots. He's going to be running the football with that read option spread. And so this is an offense that can be effective, but at the same time, it can be a detriment to the Philadelphia Eagles. But it was fun to watch on Monday Night Football. That is for certain. And so let me give a shameless plug. I didn't do it. Normally I do it at the beginning, but I'm here to do it now. Go to the website, ProFootballCentral.com. There is something for everyone. Over 20 podcasts for your liking. Find your team. Find the podcast. Listen to it. There are some insightful guys hosting these podcasts. They know a lot about these football teams. They have intimate knowledge of these players, coaches, and these teams. And so these podcasts are very informal. So check out the podcast. There's print articles. There's something for everyone on the site, profootballcentral.com. And so, with that being said, that's going to do it for me. I'm your man, Louie T, and this has been Pro Football Central Weekly. Remember, we are Pro Football Central. Have a good one. See you on Thursday.